This is SoulCharge, the podcast for women leaders to take the highest level of ownership of their power to create results now. I'm your host, Stacy B. Let's dive in. You do not have a clarity problem. Your problem is not your pricing or even your product suite. Could those things use some tweaks? Maybe. But I am here to tell you today that your problem is none of these things that I've mentioned, but all to do with loving yourself. This episode today is diving into this behind the scenes conversation and frankly, chaos that's going on behind the scenes for us as leaders and has all to do with self-love, how much of it we're actually giving to ourselves and how that is showing up in the business time and time again. Buckle up. This episode is going to rip some things off. It's going to deep dive into areas maybe you haven't even considered. Let's dive in. Self-love is such an interesting topic, and it's something that for us as leaders, for high-performing leaders, a lot of times doesn't even cross our minds. We're so good at being in our heads. We're so good at the strategy. We're so good at fixing all of the things that it doesn't even occur to us that self-love is a thing or the reason why we're stuck in our businesses or the reason why we've plateaued at a certain level. You see, what's so interesting about the work that I do with leaders and specifically women leaders is that they have success. They've figured it out. They have unlocked. And the one area that they have not investigated in is self-love, self-knowing, knowing thyself, exploring thyself, and ultimately freeing the parts of themselves so that they can bring that to the next level. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Self-love for me personally has been a very, very interesting journey. And as always, right, when you're going through something, you're never going through it going, oh, this is going to be a great podcast episode one day. But my journey and sharing this with you today, these worlds are colliding, right? And so self-love for me was an interesting journey. And for me, the way that the lack of self-love showed up was this incessant story that nothing was ever enough. Nothing was ever enough that I did. Nothing was ever enough no matter how much I achieved. Nothing was ever enough also from those that were around me supporting me. And how that would show up was different in the moment than what I would deem as like a self-love issue, like reflecting back, right? It's very easy for us as leaders to categorize these behaviors, such as my personal behavior of nothing's ever enough, into, oh, this is just a lack of self-love. Because in the moment, it's easy to classify this behavior as, well, I'm committed to excellence for my clients. I'm committed to overachieving. I'm committed to seeing this target and resting at nothing to follow through, leaving no stone unturned. All of that, even though I was massively successful externally, that not enough story was always playing in the background so much that I would achieve these milestones and I wouldn't stop to smell the roses. I would achieve the milestone and I wouldn't celebrate, or I would be so obsessed with the next thing on the docket that I would kind of ruin the moment for those that were celebrating. And so my story very much is around, nothing ever being enough. But that also spun into when I discovered, and it was really in 2020 and 2021 that I really started to see that this was like the thing. This was the thing that was keeping me in this cycle of it's not enough, so I overachieve, and it's this loop that I can't ever get out of. And what that was doing was ultimately distracting me from intimacy or connection with myself, because I couldn't ever enjoy. I couldn't ever go down the path of this worthy goal and say that wasn't just a worthy goal, but that I was worthy of the process and actually be connected and be present to the process in which that was unfolding. And so the not enough story in my case, again, wasn't clear at that time that I wasn't loving myself. I was pushing myself to be the best that I can be. I was pushing myself to perform. And in that kept me in that cycle. That kept me in that cycle of it's not enough. Until it's enough, I don't deserve love or I can't be loved. And this may or may not be resonating for you. Your story may sound like, you're an overachiever and, you know, whether it's like you were a good girl, you grew up in a household where it was just expected. It's like, look at your expectations and look at the fact that you never, ever allow it to be enough. You see, it's like, even though this not enough thing has different masks, it's all very much the same thing. And that's the light I want to shine on this, is that part of what's happening for us as leaders, especially those of you that have achieved successful lives, you're starting to question things. You may be in a season where it's like the way that you used to be successful, it's like not working anymore, or it almost feels like for me, the way I felt was, it was like I couldn't find my mojo, and it was like, I was doing the action, but it was so disconnected from who I was evolving into, that all I had to do was stop and really look at this reality, which was there was a gap in my love of self with regards to how hard I would push, and that it was never enough. And that gap of self-love, it's not just going on in me, it's affecting how I lead. It's affecting how my clients treat me. It's affecting how my family perceives me, because everyone's looking at me going, when is it enough? Also, probably on the other side, feeling like they're never enough, right? And so take a look at this in your own life. It's like, what's this self-love gap for you? Is there a self-love gap where you're constantly investigating things or trying to fix things or trying to identify problems before they happen, so that you have your thumb on the pulse of things, but then it's like that's all you're ever focused on. That's all that your family's ever hearing about, and that's all that you're connecting over, is how you solved problems or how you fixed something. And really, what is that all for anyway? It's this opportunity and for you to look at your life and ask yourself genuinely, just like I did, do I love myself? Because the time that we're entering into as leaders requires us to bring our whole selves to the table. We are entering into a time where conscious leadership is not just a theory, but it is leaders awakened in the world in action. We are leaders that are awakened in the world, making moves and making huge exponential moves. That's not just for the progress and development of our businesses, but it's actually moving consciousness and humanity to its next level by our ability to be aware and our ability to bring all of ourselves to the table. And so if you can identify a self-love gap, really what I'm trying to get your attention on is identifying these things that are playing in the background, because the conversation that we are having with ourselves a lot of times is the thing that if we could purify, up level, decide that we're going to be different with ourselves and ourselves, between you and you, right? That's the moment that everything changes, and there's a level of freedom. There's a level of expression. There is a level of energy that gets optimized when the power leak, gets neutralized and optimized. Essentially, if you imagine the power leak gets shut off, so there's not a current active leak. And you're able to move through the world in such a way that says, I'm no longer willing to be fragmented. I'm no longer willing to show up for myself, first and foremost, but my family, my business, all the ventures that I'm after in a fragmented capacity, because that's not your natural state. And it wasn't mine either. And I went on a journey. I've been on a journey. I mean, frankly, it feels like my whole life trying to figure out why this void feels like it's in me. This void that feels like there's always something to be fixed. There's always a problem. There's always something to focus on to up level. And when I could see that it was all rooted in this gap, which is a self-love gap, based for me in not enough. Again, yours could sound different, but there's truly just a few categories that I believe we all fall into. But for me, that was my truth. And the thing that I really love about this work is your attention to what is going on first is such an underrated superpower. Your ability to bring attention to what is going on first. Don't try to change it. Don't try to turn it into something else, solve it. If you can just see and be with the fact, for example, for me, like I didn't feel enough. No matter what I did, I felt like there was a gap. When I was able to just be with that and stop trying to change it or chase the solution or make it different or turn it into something else, it allowed that presence to heal. When we are with what is, that presence heals in ways that words cannot explain. And it's from that aligned and powerful place that adding strategy, adding solutions, turning our focus to what we want, in my case, turning my focus into what I was creating instead of destroying, essentially, right? By constantly solving and fixing and focusing on problems, that alone was enough. So I'm going to say this so that you can link the two, kind of like the irony of it, actually, right? It's like we all struggle with not enough, which the feeling of not enough is based on we feel separate. We feel separate from whether it's love, whether it's a hurt, whatever it is that's driving it, but we feel separate. And so we don't feel enough or nothing's ever enough. That's based in separation. And what's interesting and what I'm sharing with you is this simple tool to when you bring your attention and presence to something and you are with what is, that alone is enough. The irony of what I'm saying is that I am saying that if we are just as we are, that is enough. You, just as you are enough. Period, full stop. If that isn't your story, let's shine a light on a few ways that this self-love gap is showing up so that we can collapse these things and we can essentially elevate you into the fully connected leader that you are. Because that's really what this world needs from you. Not to lead from your trauma, not to try to transform other people when you're not walking the walk, but actually to be fully integrated as a leader. And that's what we're so passionate about doing at SoulCharge is creating connected and conscious and totally ignited leaders on all levels instead of the paradigm that we experienced before, which was we lead from our brokenness. It was our brokenness that made us who we are. It was very much our struggles turned into success. That paradigm is dead. And the paradigm that is emerging in you is, and it's true for me too, is how do we bring our whole self to the table? Our whole self that is connected, that is fully expressed. There's nothing hiding in the closet. There is nothing that is unresolved. Now, let's be clear. Transformation isn't just a one-time thing, right? It's like as you grow, new things are going to emerge. But what I'm talking about is this was my experience, and I trust that you on some level have gone through the same thing, is that there's a part of us that felt incomplete when we started our business, and we used our business to fill that part of ourselves, which doesn't work. And so you recreate things, or you reinvent yourself, or you launch a product or a different pricing model. And all of it is coming from a place where you're trying to get that feeling that is only something that you can give yourself. That is only something that you're responsible for. The SoulCharge Liberation event is designed to do just that. It is designed to liberate you from what is keeping you stuck, to free your energy so that you can be free once and for all, so that you can be free for good, and leave with practical tips and strategies to harness the energy that you liberate through our event and go and make results immediately. The women that attend our liberation event come in for goals. They come in to learn how they can start ascending their next level, and they leave changed. They leave inspired, they leave clear, and they leave with clear next steps on what is next. And a lot of times it's unexpected. A lot of times with the liberation event, you think you're coming for one thing and you leave actually getting to the root of what's been going on all along. In just 2 hours, we clear what is in the way. We help you get clarity and how to create a path forward to elevate your life and business. So join us. You will not be sorry that you attend the liberation event, because it is the first step on your journey to free yourself, to swing for the fences on your vision, to free yourself from the binds and shackles that are keeping you stuck. It's to free yourself to create anything that you want, because that's the truth. You can create anything, and it's time to start now. So let's talk about a few other ways this might be showing up so that you can bring your attention to it and free yourself from this, okay? So I spoke about my story of not being enough. So other ways that this can show up is very much self-love being conditioned upon what people think of you. And so I see a lot of leaders, specifically, it's interesting. It started out with women, but it's very present in men too. It's very much what other people think about, not just like from a self-confidence thing. It's like what other people think in the marketplace is possible. And so we're constantly measuring ourselves based on external metrics or what someone else did versus our knowing completely. And so in each of these examples, if you pay close attention to what I'm saying, is that if I am abandoning my knowing, let's say that I know that I'm supposed to launch this product and it's supposed to look like this, but no one else in the industry has done it. So then I abandon the knowing and I don't take action. That is a way we are not approaching ourselves in self-love. If we have a knowing about something and we're not trusting ourselves, that is a deduction on the self-love chart, if you will. Like from a self-love perspective, imagine if you were in a relationship with someone, they tell you something, you don't trust them, they don't feel your love. Your relationship with yourself is no different. So that's another way, is where you're abandoning your knowing or not trusting yourself. That reduces your self-love between yourself and yourself. Another way that this can show up is very much in the world of, we've talked about not enough. We've talked about, looking for other people's approval. It can also show up in where we are projecting. And I did an episode of this a while back, where we're projecting, we are really not loving ourselves. And so look at where you're projecting. You could find projections where do you notice disagreements happen with your spouse? Is it a topic or a theme that you see happen regularly? Where do you struggle in team? I'll give you an example. Is for me, one of the bottlenecks in my companies has been around expectations, right? Expectations being too high, AKA like nothing's ever enough, but also around control and my inability to release control. And what's interesting is not necessarily in delegating. That's not how it showed up for me. And that's why this is sometimes really confusing, is because it doesn't always show up as I'm not loving myself. And it's very clear. It's not always like that. It's very, very confusing sometimes how these little patterns show up. And so for me, when I was in the mode of, really not loving self, the way that I would combat that or deal with that was, if I could control different things, and again, it didn't show up in delegation, it showed up in ways in which I was stalling the process or not fully letting the whole process go, not fully allowing that to be taken over or owned by someone else. And in those instances, the control felt like I was doing a good job. And so see how confusing and indirect this work can sometimes be. That's why you need a guide sometimes, which is why we're here at SoulCharge. But that is so confusing, right? When I reflect back, it's like, I want everyone to take full control and full ownership of the tasks I'm delegating, but my actions and way of being is different with regards to how I'm showing up. And I would never think that this has something to do with self-love, but it has everything to do with it. If I'm not able to trust someone fully, that's representative of my inability to trust myself fully. This external world we're living is a complete mirror and reflection of our inner world. You have to remember that. And here's the thing, you are the creator, you are the driver of this, and you can shift this. And that's what's really exciting. So to bring this all to a close, what I want you to hear and take away from this episode is that if you have any grievances or frustrations, or leading is feeling like a burden, it's feeling like you're not getting what you want and you're a powerful leader in your life, the question I want to ask you is, can you truly say that you love yourself wholeheartedly? And if you cannot answer yes to that, that is a great place to start. And if you can answer yes to that, fantastic. I am super happy for you. And I hope that this episode landed in some other ways or got you thinking about some different things. But if you can't answer yes to being totally in love with you, know that that is the answer to most of the things that are happening in the business right now, if not all. Know that that is the answer to the levels of the happiness you have in your marriage. Know that that is the answer to almost all, if not all, of the problems or things that you perceive as problems in your life. Because here's what I've experienced as I have fallen in love with myself and as I have let go of things not being enough or these beliefs that nothing was ever enough. As I've let those things go, there is a stillness, there is a power that's been returned that's allowed me to make more strategic moves. This is what's up for you. It's allowed me to be more insightful about different moves, more exponential, because my thinking isn't tainted with the underscore of not enough. It is fully embodied and fully aligned with full love. And, I think that the perception that many of us have, at least I had, around love is it's a fluffy conversation, right? And business is like driving hard, and who has time to talk about this stuff? But really, who you are as an embodied leader, as a powerful leader, you have the opportunity to choose to lead in love. And you cannot do that without true and deep love and compassion and empathy for self. It's impossible. You cannot give what you do not have yourself. And so my intention for you from this episode is that we cracked you open a little bit, that I gave you some insight into where you may be feeling a gap for yourself, and that these couple few tools and points that we've talked about open up your perception to let the light in, to let the love in, so that you can lead powerfully, intentionally, and light this world on fire in the way that only you can do. Are you loving SoulCharge? If so, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share an episode. We want to bring powerful content to women leaders each week so that women can be unleashed to create the results that they want now. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.